President Muhammadu Buhari has called on Nigerians to intensify prayers for the return of peace and security to all parts of the country as his administration continues to battle insecurity. For years, the country has struggled in its battle against Boko Haram terrorists, whose insurgency has lasted 10 years in the northeast region, as well as bandits who are kidnapping and killing people in some northern states, especially Zamfara. In his Easter message released on Thursday, the 18th of April 2019, the president acknowledged that the country is gripped with gloom over unfortunate killings, kidnappings and violence as seen in the recent tragic incidents in some states of the Federation. However, he said Nigerians are united against the evil minority and promised that his administration will ensure that all criminal elements are defeated. Joining us in the studio now is Dele Abogun, a pastor and family life coach. Good to have you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so you heard what the president has said. What's your initial reaction to this?
Well, I would say prayers is actually very good, but I think we've gotten to a point where we need to go beyond just prayers. Prayer will not just go out there and get solution right on our tables. I would want to advise that. I think that for me, I see, because even the church that I attend, every week we take out time as part of the slot to pray for our nation, Nigeria, every week. But we've come to that point where we know prayer alone is not enough. So we need to get to a point where we get to that reorientation, where people need to see that people that are given responsibility in the position of authority are actually carrying out their obligations. So talking about all these killings and the menace that we have in our society today, if you trace it down, it could be as a result of inequality, it could be as a result of lack of development, it could be as a result of some people being edged out and not being part of a whole picture where development ought to take place. So it's just like a backlash as far as I'm concerned. So I believe more on reorientation, and if you're in a position of authority, then whatever your responsibilities are, then you go all out there and ensure that you carry them out.
Okay, so technically speaking, do you think a president should be asking the nation or its citizens, to actually pray? When we look at the whole world map generally, do you think he should be asking for, like you said, there are a number of problems, that he should be handling in order to, mitigate all of those problems and then, for peace to reign? But asking them to actually pray, do you think that's his duty? Because you are the pastor, you're the one that is supposed to ask us, to pray. Yeah. But for a president of a whole nation, a whole state, an African country, to ask the residents and the residents to pray, do you think that's democratic? Do you think that's actually politically correct?
For me, it's not out of place, really. Being a pastor or not a pastor, we all have a responsibility to pray. And this is our beloved country, so we have to pray. I'm always saying it takes much more than that. So if each person at each level of leadership that as a president, at the board of, at the Senate, as a governor, as a local government chairman, if each person is committed to his or her role, then there will be more change than prayer, because there are things that prayers can't offer you, but it takes you acting in order to bring it to pass.
Okay, all right, let's move on to our next question now. So looking at the state of the nation, do you think that there are actually reasons to celebrate?
Well, logically looking at it, people will say no. Absolutely, the answer will be no. But we need to come to this point where we know that everything is state dependent. If you focus more on the problems, then you might not have that creative idea or initiative to be able to see the way out of that problems. Fact given, we have more than enough problems, but we shouldn't dwell on those problems. Can we use the problem as a leverage to create solutions, or we just want to remain there? That's why I said everything is state dependent. So there's a cost to celebrate. If only we turn in the right switch and we move actually in the right direction.
Okay, excellent. So you said there's a cause to celebrate, but what would you say? Why is it actually significant to celebrate Easter, and what do you think the lessons are that are inherent in this season?
All right. Easter means different things to different people, but my own view is the fact that it's actually an event that brought about a switch. A switch because it battered a nature in the life of the people that he came to die for. And therefore, if that's the case, that nature is brought to life to be able to bring about the new light that we want to see in our country, Nigeria. You know, for instance, if you look at, because I deliberately mentioned a nature. If you look at a dog, for instance, it's in the nature of a dog to bark. You don't teach a dog to bark. If you look at a fish, for instance, you don't teach a fish to swim because the swim is in the fish. You don't teach a bird to fly. That fly is actually in the bird. So talking about this nature we're talking about, because we need to go beyond our human ability. There's a nature that is battered in us, and that nature makes things that looks so difficult, overwhelming, then you're able to see the possibilities there. That's why I said we have to leverage on the existing problem and see how we can be creative about it and be able to bring about a solution.
Okay, now today is actually Good Friday. You know, why do they call it Good Friday when it has to do with crucifixion?
It's good because we don't look at just the event. We look at the significance or the outcome of the event. Yes, death does not necessarily look as if it's something that you want to rejoice, but is the outcome of that death that we are to focus on, which was premised on love and sacrifice. And what was impossible for human nature was made possible by that act that Christ did on the cross. So that's what makes it very significant and very important.
Okay, I'm still wondering how they came about the name the Good Friday, because you mentioned so many other things, but you didn't mention good. You know, so how did Good Friday, get attached? Why do they call it the good day? Why do they call it Good Friday?
Like I said, is the significance that makes it good. We have a world that was filled with troubles, that were filled with problems, that are accompanied with all manner of disorderliness. And in the beginning, it was not so, because when the world was actually created, the earth was created in the first place by God, everything was perfect until there was a fall of man. And it was that brought in that disorderliness, and that brought about a switch from the disorderliness into the act of orderliness. All
right, so as a family coach, what's your message to families and Nigerians out there who are celebrating in this season?
Well, I will want to say that we should imbibe that same nature, the nature that is premised on love. Really, you can give without necessarily loving, but you cannot love without giving. So I want to encourage families out there that as a husband and as a wife, make sure you love unconditionally. Make sure you are sacrificial in your attitude towards your spouse and towards your children and towards your siblings. And I want to also encourage that no matter what the problem is, no matter the conflict, always know that you can always talk to someone. If it becomes so overwhelming, you can talk to a professional counselor to be able to help you through such phase of your life.
All right, thank you very much. We've been listening to Dele Abogun, a pastor and family life coach.